Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode for you. Over the past couple of days, I've been thinking about what I wanted to do with this podcast over the next year. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little hiatus from having tons of guests on the show. And I'm going to bring in sporadically some really great guests in the near future. Like, for example, in February, we have Steve Weatherford, Super Bowl champion, former New York Giants. We're trying to get Raekwon the Chef on the show from the Wu-Tang Clan. I've been talking to him on Instagram, and that looks like it's going to come into fruition. We're just trying to figure out schedule. So I'm looking for some guests in the future, but I have a lot on my mind lately, and I wanted to spend some episodes and just share them with you and pretty much tell you some stories on how I've gotten to where I'm at today with my business and brand. And hopefully you can gather some insights from these stories and figure out in your life how you could perhaps implement some of this stuff and see where you can improve in your business and in your brand. Because I think at the end of the day, we learn best from stories. They seem to resonate. They seem to connect. They seem to last longer than me just, spewing, tactical and strategical information to you every single episode. So I'm going to get a little bit more personal this year and share with you some stuff. There's going to be episodes where I'm going to be super pissed off. I can tell you right now. I'm probably going to be venting. There's going to be times where I'm absolutely ecstatic, and there's been tremendous wins, but I'm not going to hide anything from you. I had an episode, you probably listened to it already, but it was with Julian Rosen, and it was about, getting the blocks out of the way to grow your business and build the life that you're, proud to promote and happy with. And, that was one of the first episodes where I just live on the show, I let out some of my struggles and Julian being the mindset coach that he is, working with high energy folks like myself, he literally coached me live on the show, which was pretty cool. But I'm going to share with you more of these stories and help you paint the picture of how Henry got to where he's at today. And so I want to share with you a story today that started with where I got this mentality of never giving up and just constantly pushing through and willing myself into a successful life and business. And so I'll never forget this. Let me bring you back to 1997. Okay, 1997. I was 17 years old. Yes. I was probably 16 years old at the time. I didn't turn 17 yet. And it was my junior prom. And I had just gotten my driver's license. So my dad has a house in Pennsylvania. So I got my driver's license in Pennsylvania because we could use his home address there. And he had established that residence for 10 years prior. So there was no issues there. There's nothing illegal of getting my license in Pennsylvania. Just heads up there. But, my first car was a 1990 Acura Integra. It was a jalopy. But I was so excited. I was so excited to buy this car. And my dad helped me go to Canal Street and get a system for it and rims on it. And I worked my ass off during the summers to make the money to buy that stuff, cutting lawns. So long story short, it's the day of my junior prom. It's a Saturday. Now, my father and I used to go to Pennsylvania every single weekend. So my parents went through a horrible divorce I remember the age of 10, so it was about 1990 to about 1996. they went through this horrible divorce, and I saw horrible things being said and being done when my parents were going through that. It was just not a pretty thing and not a pretty experience to go through. And so anyway, I think my father's getaway was the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania, where it's really desolate, really, there's like 2 houses on the block. And like, honest to God, to this day, it's still very desolate up there and very remote. But the goal was to take my new car with the rims and the system and to pick up my date for the junior prom and drive to the junior prom by myself, right? And so Friday night after school, we drove up to Pennsylvania to get the car because the car stayed in Pennsylvania, right? That was like one of the rules until I turned 18 or 17, because that's when you can actually drive in New Jersey legally. So whatever that was the rule. So anyway, Friday night we go up, get the car. Saturday we drive back down to New Jersey because we have the prom. Halfway there, my car breaks down on Route 78, like literally 30 minutes from my house, right? Now, I've never seen this happen before. This was kind of odd. So my father, growing up, he was a big man. He was 285 pounds, 6'3". He was a brick shit house. And he always had heart issues because he ate like shit, And so had a double bypass when I was smaller. Didn't really know what was going on because I was so young, but I understood that he had heart conditions, right? He had hypertension, high blood pressure as well. So my father on the side of Route 78 goes into, I guess the best thing I could explain this, it was like a panic attack. And he starts hyperventilating and he starts crying. Now, this is a big man. I very, very rarely when I was a kid saw my father cry other than the day that his mother died. And so when I see him go into this state, like I immediately get upset. So I start crying, right? And I'm like, what? Why are you crying? What is it like? What's the matter? And he's like, this freaking car broke down. All I wanted to see you, is to be happy at your junior prom. And now I start to really get emotional here because, like, honestly, that's all my dad wanted was to see me happy at my prom, my car, right? And the stupid thing breaks down. So what happened was the fuel pump went. For all you mechanics out there, the fuel pump went. So it's actually a quick fix, but they're not fixing it on a Saturday. I can promise you that much, right? So we have to get the car towed. So we get the car towed. It gets towed. We hustle back down to New Jersey because I can't be late for the prom, right? So my father's like, we're going to get you to that prom in style, I can promise you. Now, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But at the time, like, we barely had cell phones. It was 1996, right? Or 1997. So we did not have cell phones at the time. We didn't have the internet like we do now. So so he says, here's what I want you to do. As soon as we get home, I want you to go to the phone book, those big fat phone books. And I want you to start looking up limousine services. And I'm like, limousine services? You want me to take a limousine to the junior prom? Now, our junior prom wasn't as crazy as our senior prom. Like the senior prom, you bring the limo and stuff because it was at this beautiful hotel. Our junior prom was in our cafeteria at our high school, so it wasn't really fancy, right? But he's like, no. And now, mind you, here's the kicker. When we moved out of Seaview Avenue, which was like the ghetto of Long Branch, right? I got my father to rent an apartment closer to school because I was a little afraid of walking to school at some point because I had to walk through the projects. I had to walk through literally across town because I was too close to get a bus. So I was asking him after a situation that happened on the way to school one day with a drug fiend on the side of the road. I won't get into that story. That's a story for another day. I asked him, can we move closer to the high school because it's a little safer neighborhood? So he obliged, and we about a month later, we moved to this place. Now, literally, this apartment was 2 blocks from the high school. Like, it was like a 1-minute walk, 2-minute walk at most, right? Now, mind you, that's where the prom was. So what does my father do? He calls this limousine company and has a limousine, a stretch limousine. Now, back in the day, that was like fancy, right? Hires a stretch limousine. God only knows what it cost to pick me up, then to pick my date up, which was across town, and then take me to the high school in the limousine and drop me off. Now, I think about that story and I laugh because it was so ridiculous. I got to find that picture of me in front of the limousine with the Goomba that was driving. It's like his name was like Joe something. Oh, it was so funny. But anyway, the point that I want to make here in this story is one of the biggest lessons that my father really helped me learn with that specific incident was to really never give up. Like, he could have simply said, oh, car's broke. Oh, well, looks like, I'll pick you up in the 77 Chevy pickup truck and I'll have to go get your date in this jalopy pickup truck that he still has to this day. I'll show you a picture of it someday. And we're just going to have to go to the prom in my truck. But no, he said, this is what we're going to do. And he pulled no stops to make that happen. And so I had the best time of my life at the prom. It was fantastic. My prom date was like blown away because she was like, oh my God, you actually got a limousine for this prom. Like, it was crazy, right? But the learning lesson there was no matter what happens in your life, there's always a way. There is always a way out. There is always a way. There's always a way through. There is always a way to get what you are looking for and get that end result that you're dying for. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to go the way that you want it to go all the time. And that's something that we need to understand, that that's okay. And to see my father so emotional that day, again, he very rarely shows emotion. If you ask anybody that knows my father, he's like tough as bricks, very stone cold, not very warm and bubbly like me, right? I get that. I get those traits from my mother. My mother was very open and very gift to Gabby. And, but to see him so distraught and him get that look in his eyes, like, we are going to make this the best prom that you've ever had, and just do whatever it took. Now, mind you, my father was a shop mechanic at UPS, United Parcel Service, for 33 years. He didn't have the kind of money to blow on a limousine like that, right? Especially when we lived practically 2 doors down from the high school, right? And my date didn't live too far. So it was like, literally, he probably got banged $500 to get that limousine out of there for being in it literally for 30 minutes, if that, right? But he just made it happen. He just made it happen. And I'll never forget that story, and I'll never forget that experience, because it's what I want to teach you guys, and I want to teach my clients, and I want to just teach the world, is there's always a way. You have to always have your eyes on the prize. You always have to keep it going. You always have to know in your heart that it's going to be okay. And I can promise you it will be okay. And I just have this thought in my head, people that say all the time, like, you must have somebody looking over you at all times. And I've actually had a couple like palm readers, and like, I don't really go to those people often. No offense to anybody who reads palms or does astrology or anything like that. But I did have my palm read last year, which was pretty fun. And they actually said to me that there is somebody looking over you. We don't know who it is, but so I'm getting chills just talking about this, but that's making sure that you're going to be okay. And I'm a firm believer that is true. So there's a lot of things that I've done in the past where I said, how the hell did I get out of this alive? How did I bounce back after such a huge mistake? And I just have this thought that the world has my back. And I really don't have to worry. Now, that doesn't give me an excuse to go out there and live a reckless life. But I truly believe that the world is not going to allow me to fail to the point where it's no return. And I truly believe that. So no matter how difficult I have working with a potential, with a client that may be more difficult than other clients, or my son's pulling at my last nerve, my wife's frustrating me, or whatever the case may be. Tomorrow's a new day, and we have an opportunity to start over. And that's how I live my life. That's how I think. And it has willed me into some great moments in my life that no one can take from me, because it's one of those just learning lessons that I'll never forget. And so this story here, my prom story, and how my father came through that day, he didn't have to do any of that. He didn't. But he did. And I just want you, whether you're a parent or a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife, it doesn't matter. If you want it bad enough, you will get it. So make sure you're focusing in on the how, and how am I going to afford that? How am I going to make that happen? What do I need to do to manifest this? What are the steps? How do I work this backwards? What is it going to take money-wise? What is it going to take effort-wise? And map it out and do it. I can promise you're going to see some great returns. So I leave you with that one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some value out of it. Hope you got the big lesson that I'm trying to give here, and apply it. Just apply it and see what happens in your life. Okay. So last but not least, guys, if you are interested, right? If you are interested in booking an introductory consult with me, a lot of people are reaching out to me lately on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and it's getting a little bit overwhelming. So I have to do it this way. And to be honest with you, my clients get the best results when they go through this process. But it starts with an introductory consult, and I sit down with you. It goes about 30 to 50 minutes. Sometimes I don't charge extra for it, but anyway, it is a nominal fee. We sit down and we have a conversation of where you're at and where you want to go, where your challenges are, and how we could potentially solve these problems for you. And if not me, I know people that can, or we'll find a way together to get you to where you want to be. I will drop that link in the description below, and all you have to do is click it and book it and get on the phone with me one-on-one, and we will get you to where you want to be. I can promise that. Okay? Have an amazing day, and I will catch you on the next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesigns.net.